Hi, boys and girls. So as we're getting ready for our prayer time, I want you to think about those things that you'd like to pray for today. Your praises, the things that you're thankful for, even the little things that happened this week that you were just so excited about. I know for my son, he was so thrilled to see all his classmates and his teacher on Zoom for school this week. And probably like some of you, you guys did that too. So think about those things, and we're going to sing our song, My God Loves Me. My God loves me, and all the wonders I see, the rainbow shines through my window. My God loves me.
All right, let's fold our hands and close our eyes and bow our heads. Let's pray. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for all the fun that we've had this week. And even though we have to stay home, thank you for letting us see our friends on Zoom, even if we can't be in class. Help us to not get sad because we're home, but to find other things to have fun with and to spend time with our families. Thank you that it's Sabbath and that we get to learn more about you and have Sabbath school with Teacher Becky. Help us to learn lots about you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Now just excuse us a little bit. I'm going to switch my chair. I'm going to bring some things over for our lesson today. And I have a couple of questions for you boys and girls. How many of you guys can tell me the name of the prophet that we've been talking about? Think about it. It starts with an E, and it's not Elijah. So who would it be? About the prophet Elisha. Now, when we started this series, we talked about Little Maid and how she witnessed to Captain Naaman and what happened with him, a miracle that God performed and healed him of leprosy. And then last week we talked about what he also did for the Israelites as well, with him protecting the city and the leopards who found that the Syrian army just left everything for them to finally have food to eat, and they were able to take care of themselves. Today is another story about the prophet as well. Now, I have a question for you. How many of you guys like to play with water? I know my son does. Whenever he sees a puddle, he thinks that little boys are attracted to puddles and he has to jump in it. But how many of you might have a swimming pool or a bathtub at home? Do you guys like to play with toys in there? Maybe with boats or something that floats? Well, today's lesson has to do with just that, something that floats. Now, I have a couple of things here. I have a little card. I have, what's this? An egg. I have a toy dolphin. And I have two different kinds of batteries. How many of you guys can guess what's going to float and what is going to sink? Let's try. First one, a car. Do you think it's going to float or you think it's going to sink? Let's see what happens. What happened? It sank, right? Okay, let's try something else. Let's see, I have two sizes of batteries here. I have a little battery that's really light, and I have a really heavy battery. Float or sink? Let's try the light battery. Oh, it looks like it's sunk too. What about the egg? Do you think it's going to float or you think it's going to sink? Let's see. Let's drop it in. It's sunk too. Oh my goodness. I wonder if I have anything that is actually going to float. What about this toy dolphin? Do you think it's going to float or do you think it's going to sink? We'll see. It's sunk too. Do I have anything here at home that's going to float? I probably do. But today's lesson has to do with something that's sunk all the way down in a You see, way back then in Bible times, like we've learned, a lot of the prophets that worked for Jesus and worked for God would travel from town to town telling stories about God, telling stories about the laws to keep, telling stories about how you could live a better life if you have God within your home. But one town that Elisha came to had something that was absolutely wonderful to that town. They had a school where they would teach young men all about the teachings of God so that they too could go out like the prophets and inform other town people about how they can become a preacher and how they should follow God. But the problem was when Elisha came to this school, he went inside their tiny, crowded little classroom. And you got to remember, probably like some of your schools, maybe some of you go to public school or private school, your classroom is just packed full of students, right? Well, this school was just like that. Not everybody had a desk to sit at. There wasn't a space at every table for someone to maybe scoot in a chair and sit down and participate. It was, as you would say, standing room only. That's how it was, and probably body to body. It was really tough. And while they were in these situations, the teacher would proceed to teach the lesson for that day. So when Elisha came and they offered to him, please come, teach us a class, teach us something maybe new or a new way to do this or a new way to do that, come and visit us. He did. And he saw what was happening. And he asked the students that day, he goes, tell me, do you find it difficult to study and to learn and to actually do what it is that the teacher asks of you in this kind of a situation? And they were very honest with him, and they said, oh, Prophet Elisha, it is very, very difficult. So they thought to themselves, what would be the solution? And they all came to the same consensus. They said, we need a bigger school. We need a bigger classroom. We need space. So they took a walk outside. Now, probably where the school was, they had a lot of property around them so that they could easily build maybe a bigger building or another building to accommodate the other students who wanted to come. And the young man thought, let's go looking to see where we're going to build our new school. So they took a short walk and they found the perfect spot. Well, Elisha said, what are you waiting for? Let's get started building today. So they did. And where the school was located, there was probably groves of trees on one side and groves of trees on the other. So they had to clear the land like they normally would and make it ready for the new building. And one by one, they all worked together with the same goal in mind. They were going to have a new school, a new room to continue their education. Now, you have to remember, a lot of these students probably didn't have a lot of money and probably didn't have tools of their own to work with. And one day, something interesting happened. One of the students, while he was very busy, probably hammering something away, he went with another friend of his to go to one of the nearby trees, and once it was chopped down, took it to where they were probably making planks to make the rest of the building. And as he was hitting it with the axe, and hitting it with an axe, probably something like this, and hitting it, and hitting it, and hitting it, when he brought the handle back, do you know what happened? Well, it didn't drop on his foot, and he screamed in pain. The axe head actually flew off. That's how it sounds. It's really heavy. It flew off. And do you know where it landed? It would have been nice if it landed right behind him, but it didn't. Now you got to remember, probably some of you have seen a lot of construction workers work with these tools, and they put a lot of force into it, a lot of muscle. That axe head went flying all the way back and landed in the river. Now, you guys have been to rivers, you guys have probably been to lakes, and not all the time when you've seen either movies of rivers and stuff, you see the water swifting on by, And it's not always shallow. Maybe if you got inside of a river, there's different depths. There's probably rocks in the bottom and of course fish. It was very difficult for this young man to go in there and get it. And with something this heavy, just like this vase of water, it sank all the way to the bottom. What was he gonna do? He screamed, "Oh no!" And everybody turned around and said, "What happened? What happened?" And the prophet Elijah came up, "Young man, what are you so distressed for?" And he goes, "My axe head, it got loose from the base of my tool and it flew and landed in the river." But the problem was, he said it wasn't even his. And he was so distressed because he borrowed that tool and he didn't have the money to buy a new one to replace it. And they thought to themselves, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And Elisha thought to himself, I'm going to use this as a lesson. So he asked the young man, "Did you see where in the river did it land?" And the young man said, yes, I did, prophet, I did. Show me. So they walked to the river's edge, and the young man pointed probably about in the middle of that river, swifting on by. And he goes, "Right there?" He goes, "Yep, right there." Do you know what Elisha did? He got a little twig, a little stick, probably not that big, not that long, not that heavy. He said a prayer, and he tossed it right in, right there where that axe head had sunk to the bottom. What do you think happened? Now, it would be bad if I just said, well, tune in next week, but I'm going to tell you right now what happened. All of a sudden, that axe head floated to the top. Imagine something so heavy like this floated to the top. It floated to the top, and the young man was able to go inside the river to retrieve it and bring it back. What do you think happened, boys and girls? God performed another miracle. The God that they studied about in that special school of evangelism performed a miracle that day for all of them to witness, for all of them to see, for all of them to learn another lesson that God always provides, that He always watches out, that no matter what happens, they can serve others, just like you can serve others as well. When your moms and dads or your family teach you about the stories of God and about Jesus and about all the interesting things within the Bible, you yourself are becoming a witness so that you can serve someone else. Whether you tell the story of Jesus to your best friend, or you relay a story to maybe your family, it doesn't matter who. You are serving God. I love the memory verse for this week because it really, really brings the whole object of this lesson into perspective. It's found in Galatians 5:13, and it says, "Serve each other with love." Love is the key. And who is the creator of love? God. Always remember that. Serve each other with love. Won't you try finding some new way to serve someone this week? You can do it even within your own home. Think of who you'd like to serve.